Once upon a time, money was gold, tangible, scarce, and real. It couldn't be printed, it couldn't be faked, it couldn't be created out of thin air. But that world is gone. Today, governments create trillions with a few keystrokes. Banks lend what they don't have, as powerful nations on earth are drowning in debt by design. So what happened? How did gold, the foundation of global wealth for thousands of years, lose its throne? And how did debt become the new king of the financial world? This is the untold story of how the world quietly traded real money for promises, and why that decision changed everything. Long before paper bills or digital numbers, there was only gold, the universal language of value. Across every civilization, Egypt, Rome, India, China, gold was power, and it was beauty, permanence, and trust all in one. It didn't corrode, it couldn't be duplicated, and it required hard labor to extract. That scarcity made it incorruptible. For centuries, gold wasn't just money, it was civilization's anchor. Kings and empires rose and fell on their ability to control it. The gold standard was nature's audit, a built-in limit that kept greed in check. If you wanted to spend more, you had to earn more. If you wanted to borrow, someone else had to lend real value. But power hates limits. Gold was the greatest limit of all. By the 19th century, nations were expanding rapidly, building railroads, fighting wars, and industrializing the planet. Gold-backed money made trade stable, but growth slow. Governments couldn't spend faster than their reserves allowed, so banks found a loophole. Instead of storing gold for every note, they began issuing more paper receipts than gold they actually had. It was the beginning of fractional reserve banking, money created not by mining, but by debt. People still believed their paper was backed by gold, and that belief kept the illusion alive. By the early 1900s, this illusion had scaled into global finance. The gold standard still existed, but only on paper. The system had quietly shifted from value-based to trust-based. Then came the 20th century, the age of chaos. 2 world wars, global depression, and collapsing empires. Governments printed money to fund wars they couldn't afford. The gold they promised to back those notes was long gone. By 1944, the world was desperate for a new order, a reset. At a quiet resort in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, 44 nations gathered to rebuild the global economy. They agreed on something revolutionary. The US dollar would now serve as the world's reserve currency, and it would be backed by gold. Every other currency would be pegged to the dollar. On paper, it restored stability. In reality, it placed the world's financial system on one nation's promise, the United States. And for a while, it worked. The post-war boom filled factories, rebuilt cities, and flooded markets with prosperity. But there was a flaw, the same one that always returns when money depends on trust. The US printed more dollars than it had gold to back them, and other nations started to notice. In the late 1960s, countries like France began demanding their gold back, shiploads of it. The illusion was cracking. On August 15, 1971, the illusion officially died. President Richard Nixon announced that the US would temporarily suspend the dollar's convertibility to gold. But temporary became permanent. Gold was dethroned. From that moment forward, money was fiat, created by decree, backed by nothing but belief. Gold had lost its power, and in its place, a new king rose: debt. Because in this new world, every dollar that entered circulation had to be borrowed into existence. Your mortgage, your credit card, your government's deficit, all feeding the same engine. Debt was no longer a byproduct of growth. It was the growth. Without gold to restrain it, money supply exploded. Governments could spend infinitely. Banks could lend infinitely. And consumers were encouraged to borrow infinitely. Between 1971 and today, the global money supply has grown over 100 times, while real wages have barely moved. In 1971, total global debt stood around $3 trillion. By 2026, it surpassed $315 trillion, over 3 times global GDP. Inflation became a constant silent tax. The rich, those who owned assets, grew richer as the value of money fell. Everyone else worked harder for less. And yet, the system demands that the cycle continues. If debt stops growing, the economy collapses. The world built on gold could survive on savings. The world built on debt can only survive on more debt. Economists tried to stabilize the new world. Interest rate policies, central bank interventions, quantitative easing, each promised balance, but delivered dependency. Every crisis, the dot-com crash 2008-2020 brought the same solution: print more money, expand more debt. And each time, the real value of currency eroded further. Even gold, the ancient judge of truth, lost its monetary throne. It became an asset, not money, a relic of the past, they said. But history whispers otherwise. Every time societies abandon real value for artificial promises, collapse follows, just delayed. Today, money isn't even paper, it's code. It's created by central banks with keystrokes, measured in trillions. We've entered the next stage, the digital empire of debt. Governments test central bank digital currencies, programmable money that can be tracked, restricted, and erased at will. It's efficient, convenient, controlled, and while gold once limited power, this new system perfects it. Every transaction monitored, every account adjustable, every citizen financially visible. Throne of debt has evolved and now it watches everything. So what does all this mean? First, money has no anchor. It's only as stable as the trust behind it, and history shows that trust always breaks. Second, debt isn't a flaw in the system, it is the system. Every dollar, every euro, every yen, born from borrowing, feeding an endless loop. Third, real value still exists, in scarcity, in productivity, in independence. Whether it's gold, land, or knowledge, the things that can't be printed remain the only true wealth. When gold lost its power, nations gained freedom, but lost discipline. And history teaches that undisciplined empires always meet the same fate: collapse through excess. The only question left is how long can this illusion last before the debt king falls? Maybe the next chapter isn't about replacing gold or debt, but rediscovering value itself. If this story opened your eyes, don't stop here. Share this video. Because understanding how we got here is the first step to seeing what comes next. Subscribe for more deep dives into the history of money, power, and the hidden forces shaping your future. Because in the world of money, the truth is always worth more than gold.